go. We are in the UCC Article 1, subsection 3-1-308, the performance or acceptance under reservation of rights, okay? A party that with explicit reservation of rights performs or permisses performance or assents to performance in a matter demanded or offered by the other party does not thereby prejudice the rights reserved. Such words as without prejudice, under protest, or like are sufficient, okay? So what that pretty much is saying, that you don't necessarily have to do UL8 or as it used to be before it was omitted 1-207 and all that. You could just put without prejudice or under coercion if it's a ticket and things like that, under distress, all right? So that's simply how that would go, all right? Now, keep in mind also that this, when we're talking UCC and we're talking contracting, we're talking commercial, we're talking commerce, all right? So we're going to read this little article here. I got this off the website, livingintheprivatesblog.com, all right, with the autograph. Only you can reserve your natural rights. Now, there's another, because a lot of people have, now this is when we switch up certain ways of doing things, all right? So you have all rights reserved, and then you have all rights retained, okay? These are two different situations. Now, when we're talking commercial, we're talking all rights reserved, right? But when we are talking private natural self in your natural jurisdiction, hold on, where'd it go? Then we're talking all rights retained, all liberties, right? So that is a big difference in the way that you would autograph things, all right? So keep that in mind. Commercial purposes, all rights reserved, or UCC 1-308, without recourse, okay?
Yep.
What I say is, just like I have in a lot of my documents, as you will see, let's see if I can pull one up that would have it on there real quick, because you can make a stamp for your signature, all right? You see how I have down here? Now, I put all liberties retained without prejudice, okay? You can make a stamp of your signature just like this. And I find that actually easier for me because, you know, I would also keep the master copy. So let's just say I'm going to do some filing or whatever, right? I have my master copy that I signed in wet ink, but anything that I'm giving to a bank or another entity, I'll stamp it. You know, how many documents have you got returned from you that you know the Secretary of State ain't signed? They stamped it, okay? So that's something else that is helpful for y'all to do. There are other stamps that I'll show you. I'll put that on the list now that it's on my mind, of other stamps that you can get made, because also we're going to get into your
Quick question, Tiff.
embossers for your, go ahead, yes.
So what's the best way to sign? Like last name first, and then your first name and middle name?
Yes, you can do that.
Or is it still, you know, as how we learn, you know, your first name and last name, you know, the L? What's the best way? What's the best way? That's
all right. Now this is all right. So everything that you would sign in commerce, you can sign first name hyphen middle name semicolon last name, all rights reserved. Anything in the private, last name hyphen or last name semicolon last name comma first name middle, just like it says on here, all liberty is retained.
Okay.
All right. Not everything that you're signing that's in the public needs to have all of this, all right? A lot of things, especially when you're dealing with banking, let's say here. another thing that I do, okay? But we're going to read through this for clarity. Oscar, you want to start reading for me?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
With the autograph, only you can reserve your natural rights. Your living jurisdiction is declared in your written and spoken words. If you fail to declare your private living jurisdiction in the common law, the national law of the land, the public, legal person, actors will invariably make the presumption that you are acting as an accommodation party and joinder to a dead artificial legal person name in the Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, the international law of the sea. Any registered name created by joining a given appellation, given name, and a family name, often prefixed with a fictional title such as Mr., Mrs., Miss, etc., always forms an artificial legal person, i.e., Mr. John Doe and John Doe are both dead artificial legal persons. The name can be described as a person, legal personality, artificial person, legal fiction, and legis, company, trade name, vessel in the commerce, transmitting utility, creature of the law, ward of the state, employee of the state, public servant, estate trust, foreign cities trust, Sestakv estate trust, deceased estate, decedent, corporation, corpse, franchise, bankrupt, surety, accommodation party, debtor, or debt ledger. All legally generated fictions are debtors by default because they are created without any inherent productive capacity. On any document to avoid the presumption of joinder to one of those dead fictional things, it is at least necessary to use proper grammar and ideally reserve all your rights. For example, by John, of the family Doe, period, all rights reserved, period. On commercial paper, to avoid the presumption of joinder to one of those dead fictional things bearing liability, it is necessary to separate yourself from the fictional entity by making a I can't say that word. A declaration of your living standing as, for example, the authorized agent. This invokes the common law of agency, in which the general rule is that the agent is not liable for the fictional entity principal if he/she makes it clear that he/she is the agent. For example, by John, of the family Doe, period, authorized agent for Mr. John Doe in all caps, period. Importantly, a living man or woman is not evidenced by a signature. Section 3-401 of the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, states that a signature can be made manually or by means of a device or machine.
All right, so let's go over there and look at that code.
Yeah, I just got the UCC book. I think I sent you a picture of it.
I did see it.
Yeah, so I've been like reading on it.
All right, so this is UCC 3-3-401. A person is not liable on an instrument unless the person signed the instrument or the person is represented by an agent or representative who signed the instrument and the instrument is binding on the represented person under Section 3-402. All right, instrument. What is an instrument? Normally I left it over there so we know what an instrument is. So an instrument means negotiable instrument, okay? Now, this is when you skip through UCCs, right? Now, y'all remember I sent y'all a lot of UCCs. There's funds, negotiable instruments. But here's Article 3 right here. I'll throw this in the in y'all's folder. Things just don't change. You know, general rule of thumb doesn't change. as far as signatures and things like that. That doesn't change. I put it in there just for y'all to read chapter 10 out of there on, that's it. Certain things in that book, procedure does change. So, you gotta know what you could take and what you can't take. Like a lot of ways of the status correction in there, you can't use it.
I don't want to get mixed up and confused. So I'm not going to. Okay, I'm just going to read. I already read chapter 10, but I'm just going to not read it because I was wondering.
Yeah, I just wanted y'all to read the 10 chapter on protecting your rights in common law. But you'll also see within there, they were talking about 1-207, 208. That doesn't even exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? So this is part of learning. When you go to look at things to refer them, things have changed. You see what I'm saying? All right, so instrument means a negotiable instrument. In order that meets all of the requirements of subsection A except paragraph 1 and otherwise falls within the definition of check in subsection F. If a negotiable instrument and a check, a promise or order other than a check is not an instrument if at the time it is issued or first come into possession of the holder, it contains a conspicuous statement, however expressed to the effect that the promise or order is not negotiable or is not an instrument governed by this article. An instrument is a note if it is a promise and is a draft. If it is an order, if an instrument falls within the definition of both note and draft. A person entitled to enforce the instrument may treat it as either that folder with the UCC and bonds, so that a money order is a order to pay, right? Mm-hmm. We know that when we went through that bond, that there's a bond order because it has instructions and it has a delivery and a demand to pay, right? Now, if I wrote you a check, right, it does not become an order until you endorse it on the back, all right? Now, there are 3 types of endorsements. There's a blank endorsement. A blank endorsement is simply when you just sign your name, nothing else, no UCCs, nothing. That's a blank endorsement. A restricted endorsement is when you can put, without recourse, all rights reserved, things like that. Or you can put, when a restricted endorsement can always also be on a check if you say, pay to the order of Zig Walker, but the check was in my name, right? Let's say Oscar wrote me a check, right? Let's say I owed you the same amount of money. So I gave you the check. I put on top of my signature, pay to the order of Zig Walker, and I signed under that. That's considered a restricted endorsement, all right?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay? Now, another endorsement is a full endorsement, and that is when you would put on there for deposit only. Then you sign your name. That's a form of a full endorsement. All right? When you put on there certain UCCs and certain signatures on particular negotiable instruments, if you restrict certain instruments, then the fiduciaries cannot do anything with them. So that's one of the reasons why we did the fiduciary appointments. So when you do particular bonds, it says pay to the order of the Treasury. That's a restricted endorsement. Pay to the order of the pay to the you know what I'm saying? Pay to the order of the Treasury by way of whoever you're sending it to. Okay? Restricted endorsement. But when you're sending a short form to, say, your state, you would do a blank endorsement. Okay? So it's certain ways that we'll go in so that we'll know what that is. Okay? All right, Oscar, you ready to pick back up?
Yeah.
All right. I forgot where you were. Where were you at?
I think
3-4 right here.
Okay. Section 3-401 of the Uniform Commercial Code states that a signature can be made manually or by means of a device or machine, and I by the use of any name, including any trade or assumed name, or by any word, mark, or symbol executed or adopted by a person, Thus, it is any mark of a corporation. A signature is a sign that merely suggests the existence of something else not actually there. It is not evidence of substance and living capacity. Someone who makes a signature is a accommodation party and joinder to an artificial legal person name with debt status, serving as a surety for the corporate national debt in the Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, the international law of the sea, whereas an autograph is a graphic from your living hand as a sentient flesh and blood man or woman. It provides evidence of a substance and living capacity, which is why a thumbprint is the ultimate autograph for a living man or woman. Someone who makes an autograph declares that they are a sovereign man or woman with a living standing in the common law jurisdiction, the national law of the land.
All right, so now we're going to break down the first part I was talking to you guys about. Commercial, all rights reserved, autograph, okay? And so I pulled this up because I like the example even though I do things differently, okay? Signature. Signature would be proper syntax, first name, hyphen, middle name, semicolon, last name, all rights reserved. Autograph would be by, last name, well, by, semicolon. Now you see right by has a semicolon, right? So
Right.
common sense would tell you that the semicolon goes in front of the estate, right? So now we see what the error is in this document. So by, semicolon, last name, comma, first name, hyphen, middle name, all liberties retained or all rights retained, okay? Now let's go ahead and pick up here on sign, Oscar, and just go straight down the blue side for right now.
Okay. All right. And signature side, blue side. Something that suggests the presence or existence of a fact, condition, or quality. 2. An act or gesture used to convey an idea, a desire, information, or a command. Gave the go-ahead sign. B. Sign language. The American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, 4th edition, copyrighted 2000 by Houghton Mifflin Company, dated 2009. All right. Next section, sign. 1. Something that indicates or acts as a token of a fact, condition, etc., that is not immediately or outwardly observable. And then dead legal personality, artificial person, corporation, dead status, law of the sea, Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, statutes, acts, rules, codes, etc., public servant, public capacity, limited, legal privileges / benefits granted and revocable, legislated rights prescribed by the state, debtor, accommodation party debtor, trust, trustee.
Autograph, auto, a prefix meaning oneself, is a, what is it, autoimmune? Yes, it also means by itself, automatic as an autonomous, governing by itself. American Heritage Science Dictionary, copyright 2005. Auto, for or by oneself or itself, same as auto. Auto or ought, self, same, autogamy. All right, living, lawful, man, woman, natural person, natural man, natural woman, living, standing, law of the land, common law jurisdiction, private sovereign, private capacity, lawful rights, properties, inherent violation, unalienable rights. Now, there's also enumerated rights, okay, that I want you guys to get into. All right, I put that in there. That is Article 9 of the Constitution for America. Don't forget about your unenumerated rights, okay? Creditor, secure party creditor, trust beneficiary. Now, let's go look. Ha, check that out.
On it.
All right. All right, so, but this is a fingerprint. Each finger means a different meaning is what I'm trying to get to, okay? Oscar, if me and you get married, I wouldn't put my thumbprint on that document. I would put my left ring finger on that document to sign that. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. A fingerprint in its narrow sense is an impression left by the friction ridge of a human finger. Okay. Since you are born as sovereign in your own right without a master, you decide how best to make your autograph in any given situation. Okay? So how to make an autograph. Now, proper English, lawful, given name, title, separated from the shared family name, pronunciated as a fact, but may be interpreted as a legal person created by the state. Okay? So the second one, by semicolon first name, semicolon last name, declares that you are called forth by way of John of the family of Doe. The use of by properly establishes that you exist separately from any appellation or name, so you are not in joinder, and only through the name is found the living agent. Okay? This doesn't make any sense to me because of the fact that the estate was a decedent estate that we changed into a living trust, and it's living John. Who is John? John ain't nobody. Who is John? You see what I'm saying? How that by this would, if we were to sign something, Oscar, it's coming out of the house of L. This document was created out of the house of L, right? It's not signed by Oscar. Oscar's of the house of L. There is no Oscar, Lexi, Tiffany, nobody. If it wasn't for that living trust of the house of L, right?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Contradictory. All right. So then, by semicolon first name, semicolon last name, declares that you, well, all rights reserved, declare that you are called by way of John of the family. Now, by way, listen to what that is saying. How is John by way? Like, no. You are called by way of the house of L. You see how that makes sense?
Yeah.
You see? Yeah. And
So
that you,
So it should be the last name there then.
Exactly. When you're doing by, anything by, you are the author of, right? So when you are creating and drafting contracts for your private self, you are the author. So that means that you would autograph those documents, right? When you create a contract, by, you created it. That sets the standard on who is the owner of the contract. Because the one who creates the contract owns the contract, right? Right? Like even when you look at illustrators or you look at other artists, they always say, this is by me, right?
Right.
Okay. Because one who creates it owns it. And so that's when we get into understanding what an autograph is. All right, so this says you have reserved all your unalienable rights when you were born. All rights reserved. All right, I say all liberties retained, going back to the Constitution. That's what I say. They didn't say nothing in there talking about all rights reserved. I didn't see that. I seen all rights reserved in the UCC. But right now we're talking about our private selves, right? So why would all rights reserved from a corporate commercial faction apply to something that is private by a private author? So that means all liberties retained under your unalienable, constitutionally protected liberties. All right? So the next one. By semicolon John semicolon Doe, all rights reserved without prejudice, says you that declares that you have reserved all your unalienable rights. Wait a minute, let's go back. Does the UCC talk about? It says, let's go back because I didn't know the UCC said anything about unalienable rights. I didn't see that in there. Let me go, because you know they like to play Jedi mind tricks. Be the Mandela effect. You be here one day. All right, so it says UCC subsection 1-308, a party with the explicit reservation of rights. That's all rights reserved, right? Now, all right, Ninth Amendment, right to retain rights that are not enumerated in the Constitution. All right? So basically, when we talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of freedom or happiness, that is a liberty, okay? That is a right that is to be retained by the people, right? It's not a reservation in commerce. So let's make sure that we understand the difference in that, okay? All right, so unalienable rights, that's back in the Constitution too. Unalienable rights, you got in your Bill of Rights, your unalienable rights, okay? Basically, the articles 1 through 9, well, some of 10 too. 1 through 13 are pretty good, all right? We already talked about that 13th Amendment with the 20 sections. If you ain't been on that 13th Amendment and that 20 sections out there, I don't talk about all that, and y'all got a certified copy of it in the drawer, hey, you better know about unalienable rights and your unenumerated rights, okay, and the enumerated rights. Those are the ones that they extracted out of the Constitution because they were in sections. Those rights is what made emancipation, expatriation possible. Okay? They want everybody to make it appear as if Lincoln wasn't over there getting to the business, but he was. You put that 13th Amendment in with them 20 sections in any type of situation, along with that affidavit of colorable law, boy, you walking up out of there. Don't play me with that, okay? You got to know certain things, because there are certain things that you can say a few words and you just be like, case dismissed. Certain things just dismissed. There are certain things that we should just know, okay? All right. So y'all get touch back on that. Now, another one, authorized agent for the estate of John Doe declares that you are the private authorized agent or representative for the publicly registered John Doe artificial person trademark created by the state. Okay? You can do that, or you can put RRP. All right? Registered representative. Okay? You can put ARRP. ARR. That's what I mean. All right, authorized representative is what you can put there. So you can put ARR. You could put POA. You could put. There's a lot of things that you could put there. Okay, but that's what you would do when you're signing on behalf of your estate, which you've seen in a few of those documents. All right. Now, creditor. Same thing like I said before. By, semicolon, last name, hyphen, middle name, right? Principal, grantor, creditor, or you could put holder in due course. You know, there's a lot of other ways that you can put that, okay? Now, you will be able to get into that more, because when we're talking creditor and grantor, you know, those are two different actual topics, okay? Because one, we're talking commercial, and now we're talking trust. You see how that's an oxymoron?
Right.
Yeah, come on now. Because the grantor automatically is the one that created the trust. So anything that's in the trust, why would you then have to say you're the creditor of, when you're the one that created it, and all the property in the trust you put there? So why would you have to say that you're a moron? All right. Now, this one, by, semicolon, John Henry, or John hyphen Henry, semicolon, Doe Ray. All right. By sovereign, semicolon, John Henry, whatever. I say by, semicolon, last name, comma, first name, hyphen, middle name. Okay. Or you could put semicolon, of the family of Israel, if you want, comma, first name hyphen middle name. Shuri juris, unlimited grantor, authorized agent and representative for the estate of John Doe, registered trademark, illegus, and all derivatives thereof, all rights reserved without prejudice, all rights retained again. So let's look at my example. Where did it go? Let's see. Where was I at when I was looking at that? Was I over here? I got to figure it out. All right, back to this. Now, let's compare the two. So, by last name, comma, first name, hyphen, middle, comma, Alabama national, pre-March 9th, 1933, private tribal citizen of the United States, private American national, non-U.S. citizen, private citizen of the Republic of Alabama, special and private resident of the Lamu Piscataway Choctaw tribe, all liberties retained without prejudice. All right, so we see the difference? See, when we're coming, see, this is another thing. When we're coming out, when we've already conveyed, now this signature right here, when we're doing the representation, all right, this is only for the beginning part. You know, being the representative of an estate goes away once you've already conveyed everything into the living trust. If you conveyed everything into the living trust, why do you still refer to something that you collapsed into a living trust? You understand? It doesn't exist anymore. You're solely operating in the living now. You understand?
Yeah.
All right. Now, non-assumpsit. You'll see that in a lot of things that I say too. Let's go over here and pull up that word. All right, I'm trying to just get a simple definition for you on non-assumpsit, because this is something that you would put on particular documents too, okay? All right, it's like kind of like void where prohibited. An assumption is something that you assume to be the case, even without proof. For example, people may make the assumption that you're a nerd if you wear glasses. Okay, now let's go down here. In the Latin, assumption, meaning a taking or receiving assumption, was recorded circa 1300 as a noun describing the reception of the Virgin Mary in heaven. What y'all talking about? Y'all crazy. The word later took its, okay, look, we ain't talking about them. Assumption. Let's just be common sense here. Assumption that basically you didn't know that it was illegal to basically put that bond in there like that, that it was against their state code and policy, that it was forgery or fraud, okay? So on certain documents, by putting non-assumption, that means that you put void where prohibited, okay? So you basically protected yourself and not made it a fraud, or because you didn't know, because they're going to say, well, ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? But if you put non-assumpsit or void where prohibited, well, that's your fail-safe. And I recommend doing that with any type of bonds or any type of private banking that you're going to be doing, because you might not have been up to date on the policies. They might have changed. They might have passed some statute and codes and things, you know what I'm saying? But simply by putting void where prohibited, you protected yourself.